The ship landed on Veer just as the two suns began to set. Jake Miller stood at the cargo ramp and looked out at the alien world. The sky was purple and orange. The air smelled like flowers he had never seen before. Everything was strange, but Jake had been to many strange places in his life. He was 32 years old. His face had scars. His eyes were tired. He had been a soldier once, fighting in wars that nobody remembered anymore. Now he was a mercenary. He went where the money was. He did the job. He asked no questions. The job this time was simple. The Vaney Empire needed extra guards for their queen. Humans were cheap and expendable. They did not think much of humans. They called them short-lived and primitive, but they paid well, and Jake needed the credits. 20 human mercenaries walked off the ship that day. Jake was one of them. They were taken to a large building made of white stone that seemed to glow in the fading light. A Vanny officer looked at them like they were insects. "You will guard the outer gates," the officer said. "You will not speak to anyone. You will not look at the queen. Do your job and you will be paid. Fail, and you will be sent back to whatever rock you came from." Jake said nothing. He never said much. He just watched and listened. They were tall and beautiful. Their skin was silver like moonlight, made solid. Their eyes were violet or blue or sometimes gold. They moved like dancers, graceful and proud. They had lived for thousands of years as a civilization. To them, humans were children playing with toys. Jake did not care what they thought. He had a job to do. Days passed. Jake stood at his post. He watched the guards change. He learned the patterns. He noticed which doors were locked and which were left open. He saw who came and went. Most of the other humans complained about the food or the cold or the way the Vanny treated them. Jake stayed quiet. One evening, Queen Yara walked through the outer courtyard. Jake saw her for the first time. She was taller than the other, and her silver skin seemed to shine brighter. Her violet eyes looked tired, like she carried a weight that no one else could see. She wore a simple white dress, not the heavy robes of ceremony. She looked almost human in that moment, almost fragile. She stopped walking. She turned her head and looked directly at Jake. He did not look away. He did not bow. He simply met her gaze, calm and steady. One of her guards stepped forward, angry. "Human, lower your eyes." But the queen raised her hand. The guard stopped. She studied Jake for a long moment. Then she walked away without a word. The next day, Jake was reassigned. He was told to report to the inner palace. He would be part of the queen's personal guard. The other humans were shocked. Some were jealous. Some thought it was a trick, a way to get him killed. Jake did not care. He packed his things and moved to his new post. The days that followed were strange. Jake stood in rooms made of crystal and gold. He watched meetings between powerful people who spoke of wars and treaties and things he did not understand, but he noticed something. The queen was not like the others. She listened more than she spoke. She treated her servants with kindness, and sometimes when she thought no one was watching, she looked out the window with sadness in her eyes. Jake did not know her story. He did not ask. It was not his place. Then came the day of the procession. The queen was to travel through the capital city to bless a new temple. Thousands of villainy lined the streets. Jake walked beside her, transport, his hand near his weapon. He did not trust crowds. He had seen too Many bad things happen in crowds. His eyes moved constantly, left, right, up. Down. He watched the rooftops. He watched the windows. He watched the faces in the crowd, and then he saw it. A glint of light, a reflection. Something metal on a rooftop 300 m away. Jake did not think. He moved. He threw himself in front of the Queen just as the plasma bolt fired. The shot hit him in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He heard screaming. He felt hands grabbing him. The world became blurry and dark when he woke up. He was in a white room. Medical machines beeped around him. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages. Ani doctor stood nearby looking at him with something like confusion. You should not have survived, the doctor said. The bolt hit very close to your heart. Jake said nothing. He had survived worse. Later that night the Queen came to see him. She stood by his bed, her violet eyes soft. She was alone. No guards, no advisors, just her. Why did you do it? She asked. Her voice was gentle, like wind through leaves. You do not know me. You owe me nothing. Why risk your life? Jake looked at her. His shoulder burned with pain, but he did not show it. It's the job, he said. She stared at him for a long moment, then she shook her head slowly. No, she said, it was more than that. I saw your eyes. You chose to save me. Jake did not answer. He did not know what to say. The Queen reached out and touched his hand. Just for a second, her skin was cool, like water. Thank you, Jake Miller, she said. I will not forget this. She left the room and Jake lay there in the darkness, wondering what he had gotten himself into. The weeks after the assassination attempt were dark. The rebels grew stronger every day. Their leader, Commander Bra, sent messages to the palace. His words were full of threats and promises. He said the Queen was weak. He said the Empire needed a stronger hand. He said blood would flow if she did not step down. Jake watched from the shadows as the Queen met with her advisors. Elder Tyne, the oldest of them all, spoke with a heavy voice. He had lived for 800 years, and he had never seen the Empire so divided. Half the military supported Bra. The other half was tired of fighting. Nobody wanted a civil war, but nobody knew how to stop it. He will attack within the month, Elder Tyne said. Our forces cannot hold against him. Too many have already joined his side. The Queen sat on her throne, her face calm but her hands tight on the armrest. There must be another way. I will not let my people kill each other for my crown. One of the younger advisors stepped forward. His name was Lord Vaughn, and Jake did not trust him. His eyes were too hungry, too eager. There is one way, Lord Vaughn said. The old way. The trial of arrows. The room went silent. Even Elder Thne looked shocked. Jake did not know what the trial of arrows was, but he could see it was something terrible. The faces of everyone in the room told him that much. That ritual has not been used in 500 years, Elder Tyne said. It is barbaric. It is death. It is law. Lord Vaughn replied, if a champion stands for the Queen and survives the trial, her rule is blessed by the ancestors. The rebels must stand down for one full cycle. Commander Bra follows the old ways. He cannot refuse. The Queen's voice was cold. And who would be my champion? Who would walk the path of arrows knowing they will die? Nobody answered. Nobody even moved. Jake stepped forward from his place by the wall. Every eye in the room turned to him. I'll do it, he said. The room exploded with noise. The advisors shouted over each other. Lord Vaughn laughed like it was a joke. Elder Thne slammed his staff on the ground and pointed at Jake with anger in his old eyes. This is an insult, Elder Tyne roared. A human cannot stand for a Villani queen. It is against every tradition we hold sacred. Jake did not move. He did not raise his voice. He simply looked at the queen and waited. She raised her hand and the room went quiet. The loss is any who serves the crown may volunteer, she said slowly. It does not say they must be Vanny. Your Majesty, Elder Thne began. Is the human wrong, she asked. Does the law forbid it? Elder Thne opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked away. He could not argue with the law. The queen stood from her throne and walked down the steps to stand before Jake. She was taller than him, but in that moment they felt equal. Do you know what you are asking to do? She said quietly so only he could hear. I heard enough, Jake said. I walk. They shoot. I try not to die. A sad smile touched her lips. The arrows are made of crystal. They burn like fire. They poison the blood. Even the strongest warriors have fallen before reaching the end. Most do not make it halfway. How long is the path? 500 steps. Jake nodded slowly. 500 steps. It sounded simple when you said it fast, but he knew it would feel like 500 miles. I've walked through worse, he said. The queen searched his eyes. She was looking for fear, for doubt, for lies. She found none. Why, she whispered, why would you do this for me? For my people. You could die. You will probably die. Jake thought about the question. He thought about his life. All the years of fighting, all the blood, all the empty nights. He had no family. He had no home. He had nothing waiting for him anywhere in the galaxy but here, in this strange palace on this strange world. He had found something. He had found a queen who cared about her people. He had found a cause that mattered, and maybe, just maybe, he had found a reason to keep going. Because somebody has to, he said, and nobody else will. The queen closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. She refused to let fall. Then I accept your offer, Jake Miller, she said loud enough for everyone to hear. You will be my champion in the trial of arrows. The room was silent. Elder Thne bowed his head. Lord Vaughn looked like he had swallowed something sour. The other advisors stared at Jake like he was already a ghost. That night Emma called him on his communicator. She was still on the ship, orbiting high above the planet. Are you crazy? She shouted through the static. I just heard what you volunteered for. Jake, this is suicide. This isn't even our fight. It is now, Jake said. Why? Tell me why. Give me one good reason. Jake looked out the window at the twin moons rising over the city. Somewhere out there, thousands of humans worked in veiny colonies, trapped in contracts they could never pay off, treated like slaves. If he died tomorrow, nothing would change for them. But if he lived, I can't explain it, he said. I just know I have to do this. Emma was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Then I'll be watching, she said. Every step I'll be with you. Jake smiled just a little. I know you will. He ended the call and sat alone in the darkness, preparing himself for what was to come. The arena of ancestors was older than human civilization. It was carved into the base of a mountain, open to the sky, surrounded by seats that rose up like waves frozen in stone. Twin moons hung above casting silver light over everything. Thousands of Vanni had come to watch. They filled every seat there, silver faces glowing in the darkness. Some came to see a miracle, most came to see a human die. Jake stood at the beginning of the path. It was made of ancient white stone, worn smooth by centuries of feet. On either side stood the archers, 100 on each side, 200 in total. They wore black robes and held bows made of dark crystal. Their arrows glittered like frozen fire. Commander Bra was there, standing on a platform with his soldiers. He watched Jake with cold amusement. He did not believe the human would last 10 steps. Queen Yara sat on her throne at the far end of the path. 500 steps away, she wore white and silver, and her face was calm, but Jake could see her hands gripping the armrests. She was afraid, not for herself. For him, an old priest walked to the center of the arena and raised his arms. His voice echoed off the stone walls. The trial of arrows begins. The champion will walk the sacred path. If he falls and does not rise, the trial ends in failure. If he reaches the throne, the queen's reign is blessed. Let the ancestors watch and judge. Priest stepped aside. Jake took a breath. He looked at the path ahead. 500 steps, 200 archers. He had no armor. He had no weapons. He had only his body and his will. He took the first step. The first volley came before he finished his second step. 3 arrows flew at him from the left. He twisted his body, but one caught him in the leg. Pain shot through him like lightning. The crystal burned where it touched his flesh. He stumbled but did not fall. He kept walking. The archers fired again. 2 arrows hit his arm. Another grazed his side. The crowd gasped. They had never seen anyone keep walking after the first volley. Most champions fell within the first 30 steps. Overwhelmed by the pain, Jake did not fall. He ground his teeth and walked. Step 20, step 30, step 40. The arrows kept coming. His left arm was useless now, hanging at his side with 2 shafts sticking out of it. Blood ran down his leg, leaving a red trail on the white stone. The burning poison spread through his veins, making his vision blur and his head spin, but he walked. Emma's voice crackled in his ear. She had hacked into the arena's communication system. Jake, you're at 50 steps. Keep going. You're doing something they've never seen. Don't stop. He didn't answer. He couldn't. All his focus was on putting one foot in front of the other. At 100 steps, the archers began to hesitate. They had never seen a human take this much punishment and keep moving. Some of them looked at each other confused. One lowered his bow slightly. Commander Bra shouted from his platform, "Fire, do not stop firing." The arrows came faster now. Jake took one in his back, then another in his shoulder. He fell to his knees, and the crowd roared. They thought it was over, but Jake put his hands on the ground and pushed himself up. His legs shook, his body screamed, but he stood. And he walked. At 200 steps he was barely human anymore. He was a creature made of blood and pain and stubborn will. 8 arrows stuck out of his body. His breathing was ragged. His steps were uneven, but he walked. Queen Yara stood from her throne. Her composure was broken. Tears ran down her silver cheeks. She wanted to scream at him to stop, to give up, to save himself, but she could not speak. Ritual forbade it. At 300 steps, Jake fell again. This time he did not get up right away. He lay on the cold stone. his blood pooling around him. Archers waited, the crowd held its breath. 10 seconds passed, 20, 30, then Jake moved. He could not stand, his legs would not work anymore. So he crawled, he dragged himself forward on his elbows inch by inch, leaving a dark trail behind him. The archers watched in shock. They had never seen anything like this. Some of them stopped firing, others looked away, unable to watch. Even Commander Bra was silent now. His face was pale. At 400 steps, Jake's arms gave out. He lay flat on his stomach, unable to move. The path stretched ahead of him, so close and yet so far. He could see the Queen's throne. He could see her face. She was beautiful, he thought, even through the pain, even through the haze. She was beautiful. Emma's voice was crying in his ear. Jake, please, you can stop. Nobody would blame you. You've done enough, please. But Jake did not stop. He pressed his chin against the stone and pushed. He used his jaw, his forehead, anything that could give him leverage. He moved forward 1 inch at a time. His fingers clawed at the ground. His legs dragged uselessly behind him. 450 steps, 470, 490. The crowd was standing now. Even the who had come to mock him were on their feet, their eyes wide, their hands pressed over their mouths. Elder Thne was weeping. He had lived 800 years and thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Jake reached the base of the Queen's platform. 500 steps. He had done it. He rolled onto his back and looked up at her. 19 arrows stuck out of his broken body. His face was white as bone. Blood covered him from head to toe, but he smiled. Job's done, he whispered. And then the world went black. Jake floated in darkness for a long time. Sometimes he heard voices, distant and muffled like sounds underwater. Sometimes he felt hands touching him, cold and gentle. Sometimes he dreamed of the path of arrows flying, of blood on white stone. But mostly there was just the darkness, peaceful and quiet. 3 days passed before he opened eyes. The first thing he saw was light. Soft golden light filtering through crystal windows. The second thing he saw was the medical machines surrounding bed, their screens showing numbers and lines he did not understand. The third thing he saw was Elder Thne, sitting in a chair beside him. The old Vanny looked different. The hardness in his eyes was gone. In its place was something that looked almost like respect. You are awake, Elder Thne said. His voice was quiet. The doctors did not think you would survive. They removed 19 arrows from your body. They rebuilt your shoulder. They replaced the blood you lost. By all the laws of medicine, you should be dead. Jake tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. Elder Thne handed him a cup of water. Jake drank slowly, feeling the cool liquid bring him back to life. How long? Jake managed to say. 3 days. The Queen has not left the palace. She has been waiting for news of your recovery. Jake nodded weakly. His body felt like it was made of broken glass, held together by string. Every breath hurt. Every heartbeat was an effort, but he was alive. Elder Thne leaned forward. His chair, his old eyes studied Jake's face. I have lived for 800 years, he said slowly. I have seen wars and plagues and the rise and fall of empires. I have watched champions attempt the trial of arrows, the bravestony warriors, the strongest soldiers, the most devoted servants of the crown. None of them made it past 300 steps. Most fell before 100. He paused, his voice grew softer. You crawled the last 200 steps with 19 arrows in your body. You dragged yourself forward when your legs stopped working. You used your chin to push yourself when your arms gave out. The oldie stood and bowed deeply to Jake. It was a bow of highest honor, the kind given only to heroes and kings. I was wrong about humans, Elder Tyne said. I was wrong about you. You have my respect, Jake Miller. You have earned it. With blood, Jake did not know what to say. He had never been bowed to before. He had never been called a hero. He was just a man who did what needed to be done. What happened to the rebels? Jake asked. Commander Bra has withdrawn his forces. The law is clear. The trial was completed. The Queen's reign is blessed for one full cycle. He cannot attack without breaking sacred tradition. But he's still out there. Yes, he has retreated to the outer territories. He is angry. He is humiliated. He will return one day, but today there is peace. Jake closed his eyes and let out a long breath. Peace. He had bought them peace with his blood. 2 days later he was strong enough to sit up in bed. 2 days after that he could stand with help. He walked slowly, his body protesting every movement, but he walked. On the 7th day Queen Yara came to see him. She came alone, without guards or advisors. She wore a simple blue dress and her silver hair was loose around her shoulders. She looked younger without all the royal clothes, more real. Somehow, she sat in the chair beside his bed and looked at him for a long time. Without speaking, "You almost died," she finally said. Her voice was soft, barely above a whisper. "Almost," Jake agreed. "But I didn't." Why? The question was raw, full of emotion. "I need to understand. Why did you do it? You barely knew me. You barely knew my people. We treated you like a servant, like something less than Vaney, and you nearly killed yourself for us." Jake thought about it. He thought about all the years he had spent wandering, fighting, surviving. He thought about the emptiness he had carried inside him for so long, because it mattered. He said simply, "For the first time in a long time, something mattered." The Queen reached out and took his hand. Her silver skin was cool against his rough fingers. "By Vanny law," she said, "a champion who survives the trial of arrows may ask for any single boon, any reward within my power to grant. You could ask for wealth, you could ask for land, you could ask for a fleet of ships or a palace of your own. What do you want?" Jake Miller. Jake looked at her hand holding his. He looked at her violet eyes, waiting for his answer. He thought about all the things he could ask for: a new life, a fresh start, riches beyond imagination. But that wasn't what he wanted. "There are humans in your outer colonies," he said, "workers trapped in debt contracts. They can never pay off. They're treated like slaves. They can't go home. They can't see their families. They're stuck." The Queen's eyes widened. She had not expected this. "Free them," Jake said. "All of them. Let them go home." The Queen stared at him. He had walked through fire and arrows. He had nearly died, and his one wish was for strangers he had never met. "You want nothing for yourself?" Jake shook his head. "This is for myself. This is what I want." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she squeezed his hand. "It will be done," she said. "I give you my word. Every human in those contracts will be released. They will be given transport home. You have my promise." Jake nodded. For the first time in years he felt Something warm in his chest, not pain. Not emptiness, something else, hope. 6 months had passed since the trial of arrows. Jake stood on the observation deck of the horizon's edge, looking down at Earth. The blue planet hung in the darkness like a jewel, beautiful and fragile. He had not seen it in 5 years. He had forgotten how much it meant to him. Below in the orbital stations, transport ships were arriving one after another. Each ship carried humans from the Villani colonies, men and women who had been trapped for years in debt, contracts they could never pay, families who had been separated, children who had never seen their home world. All of them were coming home. 12,000 people in total, 12,000 lives saved. Emma stood beside Jake, her tablet in her hands. She was recording everything, documenting every ship, every reunion, every tear of joy. The galaxy needed to know what had happened. They needed to know why. That's the last transport, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Everyone's been accounted for, Jake. You did this, you freed them all. Jake watched a mother embrace her daughter through the window of the station below. He watched an old man fall to his knees and kiss the floor of the ship that would take him home. He watched children laugh and run, not understanding why the adults were crying but feeling the happiness anyway. I just walked a path, he said quietly. The Queen did the rest. Emma shook her head. You did more than walk. I watched you, remember? I saw every step. I saw you crawl when your legs stopped working. I saw you push yourself with your chin when your arms gave out. Don't pretend it was nothing. Jake said nothing. His body still carried the scars from that night. He would carry them forever. His shoulder ached when it rained. His leg was stiff in the mornings, but he would trade those scars 1,000 times over for the sight below him. Now his communicator beeped. He looked at the screen. It was a transmission from Veer. He stepped away from Emma and accepted the call. Queen Yara's face appeared on the screen. She was in her throne room dressed in royal silver, but her eyes were warm when she saw him. Jake Miller, she said, I see. The transports have arrived. They have. Thank you for keeping your promise. I always keep my promises. She paused and something shifted in her expression. But I called for another reason. There is news. Jake waited. Thay Council met yesterday. For 3 days they debated a proposal I brought before them. It was not easy. Many were against it. Some called it an insult to tradition. But in the end, the vote passed. What vote? The Queen smiled. It was a rare thing, that smile. Jake had only seen it a few times before. For the first time in our history, a human is being offered full citizenship in the Vanni Empire. More than that, you are being offered a permanent seat on my advisory council. You would have a voice in the future of our people. You would help shape the empire. Jake felt the words hit him like a wave. He had expected many things. He had not expected this. The position comes with responsibility. The Queen continued. You would need to live on Veer. You would need to learn our laws, our customs, our language. It would not be easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, Jake said. The Queen's smile grew. Is that a yes? Jake looked back at Emma, who was watching him with raised eyebrows. He looked down at Earth, at the planet he had called home so long ago. He thought about his life, all the years of wandering, all the empty nights, all the battles fought for people who never knew his name. Then he thought about Veer. He thought about the arena of ancestors and the white stone path stained with his blood. He thought about Elder Tyne bowing to him. He thought about the Queen's hand. In his cool and gentle, he thought about a future he had never imagined. "I'll need to pack a bag," he said. Queen laughed. It was a beautiful sound. Light and free, Jake realized he had never heard her laugh before. "I will send a ship for you," she said. "It will arrive in 3 days. I look forward to your return, Counselor Miller." The screen went dark. Jake stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of it all settle on his shoulders. Counselor Miller, a human sitting on the Vanny Council, a former mercenary, advising a queen. Emma walked up beside him. "So the mercenary is going to be a politician now?" Jake shrugged, a rare grin crossing his face. "I've survived worse." Emma laughed and punched him lightly on the arm. "You're going to be terrible at politics. You barely talk. Maybe that's what they need, someone who listens." She looked at him for a long moment, then pulled him into a hug. "I'm proud of you, Jake. I always knew you were meant for more than guns and contracts. Go be a hero. Just don't forget about us regular people. Never," he said. 3 days later, Jake stood on the landing pad as a ship descended from the sky. It was silver and elegant, like everything the Vanny made. The ramp lowered and a guard stepped out to escort him aboard. Jake took one last look at the human station behind him. Somewhere in there, families were reuniting, children were meeting grandparents for the first time, lives were beginning again. He had given them that with his blood and his pain and his stubborn refusal to die. Now it was time for his own life to begin again. He walked up the ramp without looking back. The ship rose into the stars and Jake Miller flew toward his future, toward Veer, toward the Queen who had seen something in him that he had never seen in himself. The mercenary was going home, and for the first time in his life he knew exactly where home was.